Okay. Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. More like Fantastic Beasts and the Crime of Why Did I Pay Money to See This Movie? Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Terrible Writing Choices. I don't know if you gathered from that, but I didn't like the movie that much. Which is not an unpopular opinion. Like, I don't think I've seen one person say too many positive things about it. It's been a couple days since I've seen it, so I've had time to like digest it, and I've watched a bunch of videos of people complaining about it, so my opinion isn't like really influenced by those other people's opinions. I mean, maybe a little bit, but like watching those videos, I was always just like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, thank you for saying it. If you haven't seen the movie yet, stick around for the first bit because I'm going to talk a bit about what I thought of the movie generally and just if I would recommend you go see it. And I'm not going to say any spoilers in the first little bit, just so, you know, if you haven't seen the movie, you can get my thoughts on it, but the second half will be spoilery, and I'll like let you know when I'm going to start talking about spoilers. So when I went to see this movie, I actually took notes. I took notes in the theater. I don't do that usually. But I knew before I went into it that a lot of people didn't like it, so I was like, I'm probably going to do a video on this, because I'm probably not going to like it either, and I want to have, like, notes, because I tend to, like, forget things, and I didn't want to have to go see it a second time. So, they're very messy. They're just kind of all over the place. A lot like the writing of the actual movie. So with keeping on that theme, I didn't really write out a script for this, it's just kind of going to be all over the place. So, first of all, like I said, no spoilers, just talking about the movie generally. It's not well written. It feels like it went through the hands of multiple writers, even though it didn't. Like, there's just so many disjointed plot points, and it's like there's too much trying to happen at once. Like, every single character has some side thing going on, most of it's not important, and like none of it has enough time to develop, so it's just all these side things happening, and it's too much. It's like they couldn't decide what movie they wanted to make. Did they want to make a movie about, like, Grindelwald, or did they want to make a movie about Newt and his friends? Because, like, you can't have both. I think they thought they could accomplish that, but it doesn't work, because first of all, the people who care about Newt and his friends don't really care about Grindelwald. There's too many characters to see developing. They never really make it clear what Grindelwald's motivations are, what his plan is, what his crimes are. The movie's called The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I'm not really sure what he did. When the first movie starts, we know that Grindelwald is like this bad guy who did bad things, but I don't think they ever explain it in that movie. They don't explain in this movie what he did to get arrested and get everybody so mad at him in the first place, so that's just kind of weird. I still don't understand what his plan is in this movie because it's not really laid out clearly at all. The other thing that really annoyed me, and I'm going to go into this a bit more later too, is that J.K. Rowling, who I think she wrote the script for this, she seemed to just throw out some of the rules of the Wizarding World and also the timeline. There's a character that shows up at one point. I'm not going to say, I don't really think it's really a spoiler, but like, I'm not, just whatever. Anyway, this character shows up, and at first I was like, okay, cool. That was a nice fan service moment, but then I started thinking about it, and that character is definitely not supposed to be born at that time yet, so they just messed with the timeline just so they could have her in it. Also, in this movie, Dumbledore is the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor at Hogwarts. In the original series, they say that he used to teach Transfiguration, so I don't know why they did Defense Against the Dark Arts. I guess just because it's the one teaching position that everyone knows and cares about, because, you know, it's always the most important one in the Harry Potter series or whatever. And at one point, this isn't really a spoiler, so I'm going to go into this. At one point, Newt is looking for Tina, and he thinks she was on this one street, so he gets this gold dust, and he just, like, blows it all over the street, and it, like, reconstructs the events that happened there, so, like, he can see the outline of Tina with this dust, and, like, where she went, and what she was doing, and all this stuff. And I just was watching that in the theater, like, this can't exist, right? If that magical dust existed in the Harry Potter series, it would have solved most of the major conflicts. Sirius Black wouldn't have gone to Azkaban because they would have been able to reconstruct what happened there and see that he didn't actually kill all those people. The entire conflict in Order of the Phoenix, where the Ministry doesn't believe Harry's story that Voldemort's back, wouldn't have happened because they would have just been able to reconstruct the events of Voldemort being there and killing Cedric and all that stuff. So it's something that can't exist because it would just mess with the plots of future stuff, and I don't know why they didn't think that through, and it really bothers me. And they also throw out some things that happened at the end of the last movie. Like, I don't want to go into it because it's kind of spoilery, but like, they just decide that whatever the emotional impact of the last movie was, they're just, whatever. We fixed it, it's done, there's no explanation. Like, for example, I think everyone knows Ezra Miller's in this movie, so Credence is in the movie. So, and he survived the last movie, but they never really explain how or why, how he ended up where he is now. He just is there, that's it, get over it. Like I don't need a big exposition dump or anything, but it would be nice to get some information on the characters sometimes. The title of this movie is Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. But here's the thing, it's not about the beasts at all. they have a very, very minor role. I don't know why they keep calling it the Fantastic Beasts franchise. If J.K. Rowling so badly wanted to do a movie on Grindelwald and Dumbledore, why not make that a separate thing? The idea behind the first Fantastic Beasts movie was great, and I would have loved a trilogy or maybe even the 5 movies if it was just about Newt and his beasts and his friends and them just like journeying around, collecting animals, having fun adventures, that type of thing. If you want to expand this Wizarding World universe, why not have a different thing going on with Dumbledore and Grindelwald that's not connected to Newt so that you don't have to try and intertwine those storylines because they don't really fit? That would have made more sense. I feel like at some points they called Grindelwald Grindelwald, which was weird, but I feel like it wasn't consistent. I feel like some characters said Grindelwald, but other ones said Grindelwald, and it was just really weird. Oh, and another thing is that Nagini's in this movie. That was like a big reveal that she's like a person, but she does absolutely nothing in this movie. She has like maybe 2 lines, and it's just, she does nothing and it's so pointless. I think that's all I have to say that's non-spoilery. Basically, would I recommend you see this in the theaters? No. Unless you're like me and you have this complex where you don't like not being in the loop and like you're afraid you're gonna get spoiled before it comes out on DVD or digital or whatever. Then I guess go see it. Unless you're a super hardcore Harry Potter fan, I would not recommend you pay for this. Like maybe just wait till your local library gets it and check it out there. Okay, so from here on out I'm going to be talking about spoilers and specific things that happen in the movie, so if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, click off now. Okay, here we go. So the opening scene is really weird because it's them transporting Grindelwald. They're transporting him from New York to England. I assume they're taking him to Azkaban. I don't know if they ever actually say that. And the whole first scene is just really confusing because you can't really see what's going on, and for some reason people are like shape-shifting, and this guy that like was working for MACUSA in the first movie is now one of Grindelwald's followers, which I don't know if he was forced into that or if that was like a conscious choice. It's things like that they don't explain to you. And then there's that weird thing with that lizard that he has where like, oh, you're so clingy type thing, and then just chucks it out the window, and then it never shows up again. I thought that was going to come back in some way, like he chucked it out the window and it survived, and then Newt found it and adopted it or something like that. Like that would have made sense because this is Fantastic Beasts. But no, the lizard just disappeared, and maybe I guess the point of it was to show how evil Grindelwald is because he just chucked his pet lizard out the window. It was a really weird scene. And then we cut to the Ministry, and Newt's sitting there and he's talking to these people. But he's wearing the same outfit that he was wearing in the first movie, basically. So I guess he just has one outfit, or he just didn't change clothes in 3 years, except for his coat, I guess. Like, they were just so intent on keeping the, like, character look with him that they just didn't change his clothes. Now, one thing I will say is that I had a note down here closer to the beginning that the movie is visually nice to look at. Like, it keeps the aesthetic of the first one. It's pretty much, I think it's the whole 1920s or 30s, I forget what year they're in, vibe. And just some of the really cool architecture and like the magic stuff. Like it looks nice, but unfortunately there's not a lot underneath that. So then there's the whole Nagini thing. She's in a circus, whatever, with Credence. We never, see this is the thing, we never get explanation as to why Credence is at the circus, or his backstory with Nagini, or like why they're a thing. Because apparently it doesn't matter, we don't need to know that information. It's not like I wanted to feel invested in this at all, because you can't feel invested when you don't know the backstory. That you're just like presented with the, hey, they're in love, and you're just expected to go along with that. So anyways, J.K. Rowling definitely made up the Maledictus thing for this movie, right? We're all agreed on that. What I don't get is that, so Nagini's in this wizard circus, and presenting her as like this rare thing. Like she has this blood curse, or one day she'll not be able to turn back into a human. She'll be a snake forever. And like, okay, I guess that's rare in the universe, that's fair. But the actual circus act is just her turning into a snake. People turning into animals isn't that uncommon in this universe. Like sure, being an animagus isn't like super common, but it's not like, it's not uncommon. Like the entire plot of Prisoner of Azkaban is revolving around that whole concept. So like I don't know why these wizards are so amazed that this woman's turning into a snake. Like it's not that interesting in their world. At one point Grindelwald says only Credence can kill Dumbledore, so that's why they have to find him and get him on their side. But that doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's not like Dumbledore's infallible. Like he's pretty hard to kill, I guess, like in the original Harry Potter series, but like he's not totally invincible. Like if only Credence can kill Dumbledore, then why did Snape do it so easily? I guess maybe because like Dumbledore wanted him to, but like I don't buy that at all, that only Credence can kill Dumbledore. It doesn't make any sense. Now let's talk about Queenie, I guess, and just Queenie and Jacob for a second. This is one of those things that they just threw out from the first movie, like how at the end it's this really emotional impact where Jacob forgets everything. And, you know, he kind of, like, you can see his bakery, he does remember the beasts somehow, like, subconsciously. And then when Queenie shows up, it's kind of like, it almost seems like he recognizes her, but not really. And so you're kind of like, oh, I wonder if, like, she'll tell him everything, or if, like, just seeing her will spark his memory. We don't get any of that, we don't really know what happened there. It just, I guess, suddenly he remembered. Although the explanation they give is stupid, because apparently the rain, like the spell, only erases bad memories, and since he didn't have bad memories from there, he remembered it all, but they never said that in the first movie, I don't think. And also he seemed like he totally forgot. They clearly showed him not remembering what happened in the first movie, so you can't just go and like retcon that and say that, oh no, he did remember, because he didn't. Having Queenie have him under like a love potion was kind of weird, but like that wasn't like a big deal. Central conflict is that she wants to marry him but can't because he is a no-mage, muggle, whatever, and she's a witch. So it's illegal for wizards and witches to get married to muggles, but it's not illegal for them to just be together, right? Like, I get that it was a different time, but they didn't necessarily have to get married, so I don't know why she was so intent on that. There's that moment where she's walking through the streets of Paris and then all the, like, people's minds, there's too many people around and, like, she can hear their thoughts or something and it's, like, freaking her out. It was kind of interesting, but at the same time, I don't get it because she lives in New York, which is, I would think, just as crowded as Paris. Does she get that all the time? Or is it just because she was in a stressful situation or something and, like, lost and alone? I don't really know, they don't explain it, they don't go into it. I guess it's supposed to show that she was vulnerable and that's kind of why she ended up going with Grindelwald in the end, which is a major issue in this film, I think. The fact that Queenie decides to go along with Grindelwald is so weird to me. I mean, I get that, like, okay, he's preaching like this free love thing, but he also talks about killing muggles, which is not going to benefit Queenie at all, considering she wants to marry one. And Jacob was specifically, like, begging her not to go with Grindelwald, but she decided to do it anyway because she's like, oh, I love you so much and we need to be together, so I'm gonna go with this guy that you're telling me to not go with, and it doesn't make any sense. Also, they make a major point of showing that Queenie's a legilimens and that she can read minds, so you'd think that she could read Grindelwald's mind and know that he has ulterior motives here and maybe what he's saying isn't completely true. But legilimency doesn't make any sense and kind of is contradictory to what we've learned about legilimens in the Harry Potter universe. Like, I just read Order of the Phoenix, and when Snape is teaching Harry occlumency, he talks about legilimency and says that even the most, like, skilled legilimens can only see, like, little flashes of, like, memory or thoughts. Like, they can't fully read minds, and it's very hard to do, and not very many people can do it. So the fact that Queenie can just do it so naturally and she can fully read minds and can't really control that is really weird, and I feel like, unless she's just some, like, rare anomaly, that shouldn't happen. I don't know. There's a lot of, like, love stories in this, like, most of the plots actually revolve around romance. Like, you have Jacob and Queenie, you have Credence and Nagini, which doesn't, whatever. And then you have Lita and Theseus, but she's in love with Newt, I guess. And then, I'm unsure of his feelings towards her, but I know he definitely likes Tina, which is a whole other thing. Again, throwing out stuff from the last movie, Newt and Tina, at the end of the last movie, we could kind of see that, like, they were maybe interested in each other. Like, Tina seemed interested in him, and he kind of, like, seemed like he at least wanted to be her friend, or, like, maybe it would develop into something more later, but for the moment they were just, like, very good friends. But suddenly, over the course of this year, he's become infatuated with her, and she with him, I guess, and there's this whole, like, plot line where she thinks he's getting married to Lita, and then she's mad at him for that. It's not like he would have been doing anything wrong if he did marry her, because he and Tina weren't together in the first place. They hadn't seen each other in a year. And I just don't like the way they did that, because I feel like it would have been cool to have, like, more of a slow burn type thing where they're, like, really good friends and then they eventually get together in the end, because I think we all knew they were gonna get together. But they just seemed to, like, rush it so much here. Like, just his sudden infatuation with Tina was just very off-putting and, like, strange. Now, there's a lot of, like, fan servicey moments in here that I didn't like, but the one that I did somewhat appreciate was when they suddenly panned to that shot of Hogwarts, and, like, the grounds and everything, and then the Hedwig's theme started playing. That got me a little bit. Like, I knew in my head how fan servicey it was, but I kind of didn't care. I was like, whatever, this is fine. I'm fine with this. So they're in the classroom, and all of a sudden this witch runs into the room, and she's got a Scottish accent, and I was like, is that McGonagall? And it was McGonagall. And then I thought about it more and realized she's definitely not supposed to be alive at this point, so that doesn't make sense. Like I was saying before, she shouldn't have been in this movie. I don't think she was even born yet, or if she was very young. In one of the books, the Harry Potter books, she says that she's been teaching since the 50s, so J.K. Rowling can't even keep her own timeline straight when, like, people who didn't write the books can. It's pretty interesting and sad. And, like, McGonagall didn't even do anything. Like, there was no point to her being there other than just, like, a little nod that, hey, McGonagall's here. Like, you all love her. Like, yeah, but, like, give her something interesting to do. Give her an actual plot point. Like, she was just there for no reason. And then Nicholas Flamel also shows up for, again, no reason, really. It's kind of like the McGonagall thing. He's just, like, a familiar name. And I guess him being there makes more sense than McGonagall, but at the same time, it was kind of very pointless. Like, he didn't need to be there at all. I felt like this movie was very boring, and that not a lot happened, but there was also too much going on. Like, if that makes any sense. I just feel like the plot didn't develop at all, the characters didn't develop. I feel like all this happened over the course of one day, so it felt like nothing really got any further than where we were when we started. There's a whole scene where they stand around that like mausoleum just talking, and then they tell the story. The story, oh my gosh. First of all, it's very confusing. Like, I don't know if people who aren't fans are like following along with it, because there's all this like family tree stuff. There's all these babies, like this guy's having babies with different people, and they're on this ship, and Lita has the baby, and then the baby's crying too much, and so she switches it with another baby that's quieter. But she seemed old enough at that, like in the flashback, she seemed old enough to know that that's a bad idea, that you can't just do that, but I guess whatever. And then the baby dies, and so she blames herself for it. But guess what? That baby that she switched in with just happened to be Credence. Like, the baby switching thing just sounds so ridiculous. I can't believe it's real. That whole scene is just very, like, info-dumpy, exposition-y, and I didn't like that. This movie honestly just kind of felt like filler. Like, it felt like a filler for a bigger story, and I guess they were trying to set up the rest of this 5-movie stretch. But, like, it just, none of it makes sense. It just feels very disjointed. This movie felt like a big info dump and just filler. It just felt like filler. And then there's a scene where Grindelwald's talking to all these people, his followers, and just various other people. This is the best part. If you haven't seen the movie, listen to this. Grindelwald has this skull thing that's like a vape of some sort, like a hookah, and he like blows smoke out, and then suddenly there's visions of World War II, which hasn't happened yet, but he's like predicting the future and showing them what World War II is going to be like, and obviously World War I's pretty fresh for all these people still, so they're all like, whoa, there's going to be another war? And then like shows like an atomic bomb going off, and they're all like, but like they don't have the capacity at that point to understand what an atomic bomb can do, I don't think. Like, how would they even know what that is? I guess they'd be like, oh, it just looks like a big explosion, but like it didn't look that, like, it wasn't to scale in the vision, like it was just the size of the room, like they couldn't tell how big that actually was, but they still seemed very horrified by it. Okay, whatever. But by acknowledging that World War II and stuff, you're acknowledging that possibly Wizards had the chance to help with World War II and didn't, which is a whole other mess that you're getting into there. That brings up the question, did they just leave the Muggles to their fighting and like step back from World War II, or did they help? Because then you're getting into a whole ethical mess there. It's a lot, you guys. And there's a big reveal at the end where apparently Credence is the lost brother, the lost Dumbledore. It's problematic for a number of reasons. First of all, it's kind of hilarious to me that I thought it was a little nod near the beginning when Dumbledore's talking about how a phoenix will always come to a Dumbledore in need or whatever like that. I'm like, oh, cute little reference to Fox. Whatever. That actually comes back. That's Chekhov's gun that you didn't know was there. I don't know where to start with the Credence thing. It's just weird. First of all, it's never mentioned that Dumbledore has another brother at any point in the Harry Potter series, so that was clearly invented. That's not something J.K. Rowling had in mind when she started, or else it would have been information. This entire movie is just things that J.K. Rowling said she was thinking of the whole time, and clearly wasn't, because they don't make sense and they didn't show up in the original series. Like, if something is important enough in your mind to, like, be a major plot point, it should be in your original series. Otherwise, it's not canon. Like, the biggest example is her saying that Dumbledore's gay after the books came out. Like, okay, sure, but you never really showed that, you never said that in canon, so is it canon? Everyone took it as canon, but it's almost not really because it still hasn't shown up in a canon thing yet. I don't know if Credence is actually Dumbledore or if Grindelwald's just telling him that, because he's just so intent on knowing who he is. So I don't know what to think about that. If Grindelwald's lying to him, that would make more sense, but if it turns out that he is actually this lost brother of Dumbledore, then I don't know. This movie just thought it was full of these really clever twists, but they all were stupid. And it just didn't have the charm of the first one. I think part of that was due to the fact that they didn't really focus on the beasts that much, or really on Newt. I will say that the acting performances in this movie were very good for the most part. Eddie Redmayne's great. He's such a good Newt. He does a really good job every time he's on screen. He just plays Newt so well. Like, look at that core four. I keep calling them the core four even though they're not like the main characters anymore really, but like Tina, Queenie, Jacob. Really good performances from everybody. Surprisingly, I actually really like Jude Law's Dumbledore. I don't really care about Dumbledore that much. Like, going into it, I wasn't really excited about the Dumbledore-Grindelwald plotline. But I think Jude Law did a really good job. He really channeled, like, the Dumbledore that we know. Like, sometimes just the way he said things or the way he acted reminded me a bit of Michael Gambon, and just the way he would have done things. So that was kind of cool. I just thought he did a really good job, although, you know, he didn't really need to be in this movie. Like, Dumbledore didn't do a whole lot. It was kind of pointless. So I'm kind of interested to see more of him in future movies. Should I start with Johnny Depp? Should I talk about his performance? I'm just gonna say the same thing that everyone else has been saying, which is that he's not acting anymore. He just puts on makeup and just kind of says lines. It's like he keeps acting in things, but he doesn't really want to anymore. Like, he doesn't have a passion for it, but he just keeps doing it. His Grindelwald just fell really flat and just wasn't compelling at all. Could partially be the writing, but a lot of it was his performance. He wasn't, like, interesting. They had the potential for Grindelwald to be very, like, charming and persuasive, which is what he's supposed to be, I think. But it didn't really come off that way in this movie because Johnny Depp did not have the charming element there. not great. So there's a number of things that are in this movie for absolutely no reason. Here's a somewhat incomplete list of those things. First of all, Dumbledore. Didn't need to be in the movie really that much, like I just said. He didn't really have much of a point. Second of all, Binti? Was her name Binti? Bunty? Binti? I don't really remember. Clearly didn't need to be in the movie because I can't even remember her name. I guess she was like Newt's assistant and helping with the beasts and stuff, and she clearly has like a crush on him, but that doesn't come around. It's like literally in the movie for 5 minutes and that's it. Like it doesn't come back at all. I guess maybe it'll be in the other movies. That's the thing, is I feel like this movie was relying too much on information coming back in the next movies instead of like wrapping things up and like having the story stand on its own. Anyways, her point, she was completely pointless. It felt like it almost felt a little sexist or something like that to have this like kind of plain looking girl, like I guess is probably what they were going for, who's like really infatuated with Newt, but he doesn't like her because he's like stuck on Tina. She just has to like wistfully gaze after him. It's just so dumb. It really bothered me. She had no reason to be in the movie. Third, like I said, Grindelwald's lizard thing, absolutely pointless, I guess, unless you're trying to show how mean he is, but you really don't need to do that with a lizard. Number 4 is Tina being mad at Newt because of that magazine article. Again, completely pointless. You didn't need to create that extra conflict. Why in the Harry Potter universe do wizards just always believe things that like are in magazines? Like, is that supposed to be a commentary on society, how we believe everything we read? Number 5, Hogwarts, to be honest, didn't really need to be in the movie. It was just kind of a fan servicey thing. I didn't hate it, but the flashbacks seemed pointless. Kind of having Hogwarts there was just kind of like a set piece for when they needed to talk to Dumbledore. And having McGonagall in there, again, I don't know if that's like 5.1, didn't need to be there. Number 6, Nagini. Absolutely no point in this movie other than like cowering behind Credence and like looking scared. She did nothing. Maybe she'll have a bigger part in the next movies, I guess. I don't know. Again, I feel like I shouldn't have to say maybe she'll have a bigger part in the next movies because she did nothing in this movie. You can't just do that. You can't just rely on the other movies to like wrap things up. That really bothers me. Those are all the things I had written down. I seriously need to go to class. I'm gonna be late. Those are my thoughts on Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I didn't like it. That's it. It wasn't good. It wasn't well written. J.K. Rowling's not really a good screenwriter because she puts too much information in it. Like, I feel like she should have written out this story and then given it to an actual screenwriter who could have cut out the fat, cut out the things that really aren't important, and then had an actual movie. Like, because she just includes all this backstory, all these little, like, details, which I guess she's really interested in because this is her universe and she wants to, like, flesh it out. But the audience doesn't care. We don't want to know that stuff. We just want to, like, know what's happening with these characters now. I just hope the script writing improves for the next movie because that would make a big difference. Let me know what you thought about Fantastic Beasts. If you actually liked it, please let me know why, because I have seen very few people actually react positively towards it. So I'd like to hear some people's opinions and if they actually liked it. Or just tell me what you thought the dumbest thing in it was, because there's a lot to choose from. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one, whenever that is. Goodbye.